Most of my memories as a little girl are in a volleyball gym.
My neighbor, Betsy, I wanted to be just like her. So she played volleyball, I wanted to play volleyball.
I was a terrible drawer, but ended up drawing a picture of myself, and I had a USA jersey on, and shockingly enough, it was number 7.
We single filed into the gym, and the first step that I took, I just had these crazy chills. It was a really emotional moment for me.
What do you want volleyball to do for you? Where do you want this path to take you? I want to be on the USA Olympic team. I want to play in the Olympics one day.
Surreal is the word that I have to use because it's something that I never have experienced before.
We are committed.
We are uplifting.
We are strong.
We are authentic. On the field,
In the classroom.
In the community.
It's not just something we do.
it's how we live.
It's our way.
Always pushing one another.
Working towards the same vision. Stronger together.
This is the CUSA way.
We're a university founded on the site of an airport, reaching new heights. It's in our DNA. And since then, we've dedicated ourselves to solving the big problems facing our community and the world. We believe that crazy startup idea isn't so crazy, that families without healthcare shouldn't have to go it alone. We believe we can be better prepared for the next hurricane, and that our coral reefs can be saved. And that's because, above all else, we believe in you.
FIU threatening to enter the red zone. Phillips is in the red zone. He has more. He's at the 10-5. Shake and bake. Touchdown. Sean Darius Phillips. Oh, second of the evening. Are you kidding me?
AJ, did you see that move he just put on that kid there at the goal line? That is why Coach Davis and this staff is very high on this kid here.
Well, that's Sean Darius Phillips, number 22, with 2 touchdowns Saturday night under the lights, playing some of the best football of his career the past 2 weeks. He set the tone on the first drive of the game, and FIU was only getting started at that point. Good afternoon. Welcome to Panther Talk Live here at the Graham Center with head coach Butch Davis. I'm AJ Ricketts. No shortage of storylines and explosive plays this past weekend to recap. A 63-point offensive outburst against UMass, once again tying the school record for points in a game, and we saw that clip. Sean Darius Phillips starting the first drive. The ground attack was prolific this week, and Sean Darius, and really the whole stable of running backs right now is they're leading the attack right now.
Yeah, you know, AJ, obviously everybody knows already last year, this year, we're trying to rotate and get a lot of guys in there. Obviously with Anthony Jones being out of last week's game or the last 2 games, it's given Sean Darius 8 to 10 more carries. It's given Napoleon 6 or 7 more carries, and the one guy that got a little bit more than he'd previously ever gotten was Devontae Price. So all 3 of those guys rotating in. They ran hard, they ran physical. Offensive line, obviously, you're completely a byproduct of how well the offensive line does as far as their blocking is concerned. To be able to rush for 329 yards, I think that was obviously, it set the tone. It's one of the things that you want to be able to do, and I was very proud of our offense. They were pretty much efficient, the entire evening.
Yeah, 2 running backs go for over 100 yards. It's the last time 2 guys went over 100 yards for FIU, well, it was against UMass last year. Alex Magoo was one of those guys as a quarterback.
That's the one you don't want to have to rush for over 100 yards.
But Maxwell and Phillips go for 100 plus. Obviously a career high for Sean Darius. Devontae Price adds 36 yards and a touchdown. Referencing Sean Darius, did something click for him this offseason? He's shown great agility. Kenny Kelly was raving about the little shake and bake move he made for one of his touchdowns. I think it's unfair to say he was just a power back last year that was used in goal line situations and short yardage. He offered more than that last year, but he's truly showing something this year that he didn't in 2017.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give credit to 2 or 3 different people.
Sure.
Certainly the players, AJ, they've got to buy into this. But one, Tim Harris is a phenomenal, great running back coach, and he really challenges those guys to really try to improve. And he's very honest about, these are the things you're doing well, this is what you've got to try to improve on. And one of the things with all of them was explosiveness and power and agility. And so now you pass the baton to Andrew Swayze, who works in our strength and conditioning program, who has done a phenomenal job with the speed and conditioning of our entire football team, but taking our skill players and working with them on balance and being able to shake and spin and cut and make guys in open space miss tackles. And obviously, then when it gets down to the players, they really worked on developing their speed. But I think Sean Deere is one of the things too. He's stronger and he's thicker, but he's lost some weight. And I think you see that weight loss show up in how much speed stuff when he gets to the second level.
And on the quarterback side, James Morgan, after the first game against Indiana, you noted there's not a clear front runner yet.
Yeah.
I think obviously James has established himself as the clear starter, but at the same time, I think Christian Alexander has more attempts, passing attempts this season than maybe Maurice did as the backup all of last season. And you emphasized you want your backup to have more playing time this year, and you have to feel comfortable three games in with where your number two guy is.
You know, we went into the ball game, and obviously, you always talk about, well, if your quarterback is hot and the offense is clicking and you're moving, why change it up at that particular time? And, we got off to a good start offensively. We were moving the ball, scoring points. James was playing well. It could have conceivably, Christian could have gotten in late in the second quarter, in the third quarter, but, James was doing a good job moving the ball. And again, we wanted to get Christian into the game. And I would tell you that probably the entire season where he's going to play in every single game, and how much he plays, a lot of it depends upon how well he plays and how well, that James is playing.
You want to get him in the game for the experience, and you want to get him in the game because it was his birthday this past Saturday. I think he had a 35-yard scamper with it, too. So that
let me just say one thing about Christian, too. I mean, you want to talk about a kid that's a great leader in the locker room, and his enthusiasm for this football program. And it's not always easy when you're the quarterback and you're in a tight battle to try to win the job, and then obviously someone else gets the larger role. But the respect that everybody has for him and his passion, the way he prepares every single week as the backup quarterback as if he was going to start. And that's what you really want out of your backup quarterback, that he can go in at any moment and the offense doesn't take a lick and doesn't go down.
You watched the FIU Athletics Instagram yesterday. You see those guys in the weight room, Morgan, Alexander, getting after it, both together, paired together, and encouraging each other on. One position change that's gone pretty well this season, Maurice Alexander at the wideout spot. We'll spotlight him when we return. A couple of touchdowns for the Panthers, contributing for FIU this season. We'll be right back. This is Panther Talk Live.
We are committed.
We are uplifting.
We are strong.
We are authentic. On the field,
In the classroom,
In the community.
It's not just something we do.
it's how we live.
It's our way.
always pushing one another.
Working towards the same vision, stronger together.
This is the CUSA way.
We're a university founded on the side of an airport, reaching new heights. It's in our DNA. And since then, we've dedicated ourselves to solving the big problems facing our community and the world. We believe that crazy startup idea isn't so crazy, that families without health care shouldn't have to go it alone. We believe we can be better prepared for the next hurricane, and that our coral reefs can be saved. And that's because, above all else, we believe in you.
We are stronger together.
We push each other to excel.
In the classroom, on the field,
In the community.
Together, we are committed.
Uplifting, strong,
and authentic.
We are building the next generation.
And we are doing it our way. Stronger together.
Working towards the same vision.
This is the CUSA way.
Spinning, getting way out of traffic. He found something out of nothing. Maurice Alexander, can he take it to the house? Stumbling into the end zone. Maurice Alexander, touchdown. What a play.
All right, welcome back to Panther Talk Live. A.J. Ricketts alongside head coach Butch Davis. You saw right there what an explosive play for this past weekend. Maurice Alexander all the way to the end zone. Just to put it in perspective, last season for FIU in special teams, 11 punt returns for 45 yards. Certainly that's a byproduct, too, of what the punter is doing and how many chances you get. And it seemed a lot of kicks went out of bounds or a lot of kicks were short. But in this game, this past weekend, that punt return alone, more than the entire yardage of last season, you've got a dynamic player back there taking punts back.
You know, AJ, one of the things that you do in the offseason after the first season is you kind of do a real study of like what'd you do well, what'd you not do well. And one of the things that we really felt like that we didn't do a very good job of last year was creating opportunities in the kicking game, basically in all phases of the kicking game. And you know, once Maurice made the decision that he was going to go and become a wide receiver and he wasn't going to be the backup quarterback, you're not going to put your backup quarterback back there as a punt returner. Then we said, you know what, now we've got somebody that's got good hands, he's got good speed, he makes good decisions, and, you know, it should give us an opportunity to have, you know, some explosive plays and some big plays in the punt return game. And obviously this past Saturday, I mean, you couldn't have asked for more. I think he had 139 yards on 5 returns, and one of them being for a touchdown. But, you know, a lot of it is the person. I mean, when you have somebody back there that's got good vision and you trust them with the decision-making, they make good catches. Obviously, he's had some fair catches this year in tight quarters, and he does that really well. But, you know, it's an area that we want as one of the areas that we want to get better during the course of this season.
Yeah, he's certainly proven that he can be trusted returning punts, and now Panther fans holding their breath every time he's back there expecting a return of at least 10 to 15 yards. And again, the 38-yard receiving touchdown as well. It's the first time any FIU Panther ever in school history has had a receiving touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown, which is kind of shocking. You remember the guy named T.Y. Hilton that was here?
You'd think that would have been, you know, somebody that would have been in that column.
You know, he had some kick returns and receiving touchdowns, but never a punt return and a receiving touchdown in the same game. So Maurice Alexander setting some history there. We talk about the receiving core. You spread out the wealth a little bit, 8 different wide receivers with receptions. I want to talk about Sterling Palmer in just a second, but I also want to talk about the facet of your running backs are a lot more involved in the receiving game. Napoleon Maxwell had I think 3 catches along with Sean Darius, 3 catches out of the backfield. They prove it, and they were 2 of the 3 leading receivers this past weekend.
You know, I think that one of the things that you really want out of your offense is you'd like to have the ability to distribute the ball and get everybody involved in the passing game, whether it's the tight ends, whether it's the wide receivers, the slots, the backs out of the backfield, and the more ability that your quarterback has to just not focus on one guy. I mean, there was a period of time last year, AJ, obviously the first half of the season prior to his injury, where Thomas Owens was like the guy. I mean, I think when he got hurt in week 6, he had like 50-something catches, and you know, but you really, it's too easy if one guy is the main focus. It's too easy to take that guy out. You can double cover him. You can do a variety of different ways to make them have to try to beat you left-handed. But if you're in the perfect world, I'd love to get up on Sunday morning and read the stats and say that 6 or 7 guys, each of them had 4, 5, or 6 catches, and at the end of the day, you know, you're 32 out of 41 attempts, and everybody got involved.
One of the guys that got involved, a younger guy, 6'6", 240, 250, I think, Sterling Palmer, the big guy from Fork Union Military Academy, got both feet down, I think, at the back of the end zone after taking a big lick. A great throw from James Morgan to find him as well. And boy, he can be a weapon. And a lot of different packages.
Yeah, you know, AJ, obviously, you know, people at FIU, they followed Janu Smith and how unbelievably talented that he was. And every program that I've ever been involved in, all the way even into the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns, having a good tight end is critical, and if you can have more than one good tight end, then that's even better. And you know, and so when you come into the program, you know, Janu was gone. We had to last year bring in Pharaoh McKeever, who was a transfer from NC State, and he actually played for us last year. He was the second leading receiver. So it shows you that, you know, we value the tight end position, and obviously now we've got a lot of young kids that are growing. Every game is baptism under fire. They're learning, but I really think that Sterling, he's like a lot of the really good tight ends that I've been around. He's a good athlete. I mean, you could put him on a basketball. He'd play above the rim. His feet are good. His hips are good. He can flip and change directions, and he's got explosiveness that he can run. So, you know, he's got a really, really bright upside future.
One more thing about the offense before we transition to the defense after the break. You got to like how the O-line graded out. They were pushing people backwards. I think we saw Shane Magoo line up as a fullback late in the game. I wonder if we got a Magoo in the backfield again. But how'd you feel the O-line graded out?
Yeah, AJ, I thought they did well. There's some things, obviously, every single game that you got to clean up. Yeah. And sometimes the running backs make you look better than the offensive line played. Yeah. Sometimes the offensive line plays extremely well, and the running backs don't make all the right reads. But we played 9 kids in the offensive line. They all, and to be honest with you, the lowest one of those guys, sometimes you say, oh, because you played 9 guys, the last one, he only played like 4 or 5 plays. The least amount that any of them played was 29 snaps. And so that gives you a lot of guys that can go in, keep guys fresh, they learn. And guys like Shane Magoo, I mean, obviously, he could play right guard, he could play center, he could play left guard. So his versatility is unbelievably invaluable. And I want to brag on a kid that obviously was our starting center last year, was Neil Mars. Started all 13 games, got hurt in the bowl game, had a really, really bad knee injury. Yeah. Fought his guts out the entire offseason, all through the spring and over the summer, to get back. And not only did he get back for the season, he got back for training camp. And so he got his chance to get his feet back into the game this week. And I think he played 25 or 30 plays. So, so that was excellent to get him back in because he brings 13 games of experience. And so now you feel like if you're rotating the center, which a lot of times is a dangerous situation, if he comes in, this is a guy that played almost 800 snaps for you last year, so you feel good about it.
A tremendous opportunity to get some reps, and I think you mentioned before the broadcast on special teams too, about 45-plus players getting reps, and a great chance to do that in a 63-point outburst against UMass. All right, coming up after the break, when you think of Rocky, perhaps the image of a chiseled frame going 72 steps up the Philadelphia Museum of Art comes to mind. Well, FIU fans, perhaps when they think of Rocky, maybe a 56-yard dash down the sideline comes to mind. We'll talk about Rocky Jock Louis and the FIU defensive effort when we return on Panther Talk Live with Butch Davis.
Most of my memories as a little girl are in a volleyball gym.
My neighbor Betsy, I wanted to be just like her. So she played volleyball, I wanted to play volleyball.
I was a terrible drawer, but ended up drawing a picture of myself, and I had a USA jersey on, and shockingly enough, it was number 7.
We single filed into the gym, and the first step that I took, I just had these crazy chills. It was a really emotional moment for me.
What do you want volleyball to do for you? Where do you want this path to take you? I want to be on the USA Olympic team. I want to play in the Olympics one day.
Surreal is the word that I have to use because it's something that I never have experienced before.
We are committed. We are uplifting.
We are strong.
We are authentic. On the field,
in the classroom,
in the community.
It's not just something we do.
It's how we live.
It's our way.
Always pushing one another, working towards the same vision,
Stronger together.
This is the CUSA way.
Welcome back to the Graham Center on the campus of FIU. It's Panther Talk Live with Butch Davis. I'm AJ Ricketts. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Live. This will also be posted on FIUsports.com after you want to catch up on anything. We'll chat the upcoming Miami game in just a little bit, but right now, looking back on the defensive effort against UMass from this past weekend, Rocky Jock Louis is a freshman linebacker. Didn't have a huge game stat-wise, just 1 tackle, but that interception, a pick 6. But I wanted to spotlight him real quick. He's a guy, a 2-star recruit. He chose FIU over App State and Tulane, but I read an article about him a couple weeks ago. He said, Butch Davis essentially gave me hope as an undersized linebacker. He was the first to offer me, and now he's making big plays that kind of killed any momentum UMass had in the second half after that opening drive for a touchdown. Great to see a young guy make a big play like that.
Well, watching his high school film, you love the way that he played. I mean, he had speed, he had athleticism. Obviously, he needed to get into our strength and conditioning program, and the ceiling is really, really high for him because over the next couple of years, I mean, I envision him being a 6'3", 245-pound linebacker that can run in the 4.5s. I mean, this is a kid that's got great athletic ability. It's a new position for him, AJ, obviously playing as a linebacker because he was an outside linebacker that mostly rushed the passer in high school. So playing in space, dropping, covering guys, and playing man-to-man is kind of new for him. But obviously, the interception that he had, it was a great interception from the standpoint that, one, he was on the right guy, he was covering the right player, and then obviously once he made a break on the ball, he's got the hands and the athletic ability to run away from everybody. And you know, he's going to be one of the young freshman players that we have that's going to continue to get better and better the more he plays.
That's obviously been one of your strengths throughout your coaching career, your recruiting career, is identifying maybe undervalued guys and bringing them into your program. You made a living off that. Well, not a living, but you did it a lot, I should say, at the University of Miami and North Carolina. What stands out with guys when you see maybe an undersized prospect? What stands out where you say he's not just an undersized guy, he has potential? What are identifying marks of that?
A lot of it, AJ, is kind of the assessment of their athletic ability. If they are literally only have one chance to make it on your football program, it's unlikely that they potentially will. You know, if they played multiple plays. And I'll talk about a guy like Ed Reed. When you watched Ed Reed, he played in the secondary, played wide receiver, played quarterback. I mean, I've had a lot of guys that play a lot of different positions, and then they play a lot of different other sports. And when you get a chance to evaluate a kid playing basketball, or he runs track, maybe they're a high school wrestler, and you can see the balance and the upper body strength, and you go, you know what? If he's willing to make an adjustment from a position, Dan Morgan was one. Dan Morgan was a premier running back in high school in Broward County, and came down and just had unbelievable instincts like running backs do to find open areas. That's where the running backs go. Well, that's where the linebackers need to be. And obviously he ended up becoming a Butch Award winner and a first-round draft choice and played many years. So you're always looking for guys that have got a lot of different athletic abilities, because it gives you 4 or 5 different opportunities to find a place for them to be successful.
Absolutely. Going back to the team effort here, perhaps a perfect game on film is somewhat unattainable, whatever the sport may be, and the 63 points maybe hides some spots to look at, maybe occasional question marks. There was that drive down the field to start the second half on the ground for UMass, but you look overall. Owen Cushion had a great game, was nominated for CUSA Player of the Week, had those 9 tackles. He forced the punts on 3 of the first 4 possessions. UMass's 2 of the final 3 possessions, interceptions. What did you see on film this week?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a devout believer. You got to do a better job. You know, you look at things. We didn't do a good job stopping the run. I think that was big. You know, the things that helped us from a defensive perspective is you get the 2 interceptions. Rocky gets 1, and then Jamal Gates gets 1 in the end zone. So that's 2 of your linebackers get interceptions. That keeps points from off the board, keeps them from having the ball. You know, they ended up muffing the kickoff, and so we get the ball back. 4 plays later, we score on offense. But I mean, we're replacing 8 starters off of last year's defense, AJ, and it is, and I keep using this term, baptism under fire. The only way they're going to get better is they got to roll out there and they got to go play. And every single week is a chance to grow, to learn, to get better. And sometimes you learn by making some mistakes. I mean, you make a mistake and hopefully it doesn't cost the team a victory, but you're just like, okay, now I understand shifts in motions and personnel groupings and those kinds of things. And you hope as your football team, you know, makes strides every single week, AJ. I mean, we're still a very, very young football program. And we talked about it in the week 1 against Indiana. We played 29 guys that had never played in a college football game in their entire life. And we would have probably added to that number this past weekend, because we got a lot of guys that got a chance to go in offense, defense, and special teams that really had never contributed, just simply because the score allowed us to have that. So we're going to continue to play guys and try to grow the program, grow depth, and try to improve every single week.
This upcoming weekend, a second game against a Power 5 opponent. FIU and Miami will preview the matchup against the Canes when we return for the final segment on Panther Talk Live. Stay with us.
We are stronger together. We push each other to excel.
In the classroom, on the field,
in the community.
Together, we are committed.
Uplifting, strong, and authentic.
We are building the next generation.
And we are doing it our way. Stronger together.
Working towards the same vision.
This is the CUSA way.
We're a university founded on the side of an airport, reaching new heights. It's in our DNA. And since then, we've dedicated ourselves to solving the big problems facing our community and the world. We believe that crazy startup idea isn't so crazy, that families without healthcare shouldn't have to go it alone. We believe we can be better prepared for the next hurricane, and that our coral reefs can be saved. And that's because, above all else, we believe in you.
We are committed.
We are uplifting. We are strong.
We are authentic. On the field,
In the classroom.
In the community.
It's not just something we do.
It's how we live.
It's our way.
Always pushing one another.
Working towards the same vision.
Stronger together.
this is the CUSA way.
All right, let's talk this upcoming week. Welcome back to Panther Talk Live with Butch Davis and AJ Ricketts. It's Miami and FIU this weekend at Hard Rock Stadium. 3:30 p.m. starts on ESPN2. Also, our pregame show on 790 a.m. The Ticket, built by Florida Lumber. That will begin at 3 p.m. Myself alongside Kenny Kelly. All right, last time these two teams met, 2007. Mark Richt on the Joe Rose this morning. He was talking about, he told his guys, look, Butch Davis, this is a guy and a staff that did a lot of great things at Miami, built a great program. At the U from 95 obviously to 2000, took them to the Sugar Bowl, built the roster that won the national championship in 2001. But you played them since you went 3-1 against the Canes at Carolina. Whenever you play Miami to your former players, send just some more text messages. you talking back and forth with them or any of the guys, or what's game week like against Miami before you haven't been there before? Any different?
Not so much about game week, obviously.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal. I mean, I really have a good relationship with a lot of the kids, not only from the 6 years of being the head coach, but also for the years of being an assistant coach there, that you're always in contact with those guys.
Yeah.
They're part of your life forever, and you see them. And now that I live here in Miami, obviously you see them on a more frequent basis. But it's during that game week, you don't get any more contacts than you would normally.
Yeah, you have those relationships
Yep.
built all throughout the year, not just a game week thing. Previewing this roster, Jeff Thomas leads the nation in yards per reception, 27 yards per catch, a very dynamic playmaker. They have a lot of speed on the edge. What have you seen on film of Miami, who's 2-1 this season?
We just got started, obviously, this morning watching their films and breaking them down and taking a look at them, and you're exactly right. He's one of the most dynamic wide receivers in all of college football. He's got great explosiveness. He gets chances to get down the field. They got an experienced veteran quarterback that's played a lot of games in Rozier, and he gets the ball. One of the things he does well is he throws the ball deep, and he gives those their wide receivers playmaking opportunities down the field. As we get into it and you take a look at it, you start to develop an idea as to what their strengths are, where they play well. I mean, they've played extraordinarily well. It's actually surprising when you watch the film. If you didn't look at the scoreboard, you wouldn't be 100% certain that they didn't actually beat LSU because of the way in which they played during the course of the game. Turnovers obviously make a difference in the game and stuff, and LSU is a good football team, as they've already proven, go on the road and beat Auburn at home. So this will be a really good challenge for our football program. I think one that our kids are anxious to go find out how good we can potentially be.
Not to apply any predictions this weekend, but you look at how the Group of Five did against Power 5 teams last week. Troy upsets Nebraska on the road. Temple over Maryland. Akron, 21-point dogs against Northwestern. They come out with a win. You're really seeing Group of 5 teams really establish themselves as teams to be taken seriously. USF, another team in South Florida. What UCF did last year, it's much more even scale you have to feel with some of the results you're seeing recently.
In certain areas. And some of the teams that you referenced, they're not Miami. They're not.
That's true.
Let's be honest. I mean, Nebraska, they're 0-2 right now, and if they hadn't canceled the first one, they might have been 0-3. So, it's a whole different issue based on the opponent that you're playing and stuff. But I do think that there's a lot of really talented football players across the country, and if you do a good job selectively, you can find enough kids that can build a program that can compete just about with anybody. And obviously, in year 1.5, that's kind of the direction that we hope that we're headed.
Coach, last thing for you here as we round out the show. 3 games in, you're 2-1, a competitive game against Indiana. A little status check this weekend, but where do you feel the team's at 3 games in and where you want them to be?
Yeah, well, one of the things I think that we've tried to get a little bit better at is the running game part of it is a big part of it. Trying to create turnovers. Last week we got 2. We want to win the turnover battle. I mean, we unfortunately we had a fumble in the game last week, and so you don't want to do that. But if you can really emphasize all the little bitty tiny things, trying to become a better tackling football team, trying to become really good at special teams. There's in a lot of games, AJ, sometimes it's down to like 10 to 15 plays that sometimes will decide the outcome of a game, and it's like, who makes those? I mean, there's a 4-yard run for us and a 4-yard run for the opponent, at the end of the day, 20, 30, 40 of the plays are almost a wash. It's like what happens in those other plays, and do you win those battles? And if you don't, then you don't win the game. If you do win those battles, you got a chance to win the game.
Absolutely. You see how much of an impact that makes.
Yep.
Just a couple plays, the pick six at Indiana, and a 10-point game.
Yep.
Things like that can turn the direction of a game. Well, we're looking forward to the road trip. About 20 miles up the road to Miami Gardens. Should be a fun one this weekend in Hard Rock Stadium. Coach, appreciate the time. Let's get back to scouting. Thank you for tuning in to Facebook Live, our 4th edition of Panther Talk with Coach Davis. Reading some of the Facebook comments throughout. Frank Pena watching 3,700 feet in the air right now. Go in flight. Well worth it. Thanks for tuning in today. Panther Talk Live with Coach Davis. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it.